Boy, gentlemen, the shootout in the shoe was not a shootout. It was a defensive struggle between two teams trying to get their footing on offense. Texas coming up short 14-7. A last-minute drive by the Longhorns stopped on a 4th and 5 on a blitz. But the Longhorns did score in the second half. They actually had – 3 drives, if you want to put it out there, in the red zone in the second half, and only scored on one of them. So there's a lot of meat left on the bone here, but Ohio State, I thought, may have had a better game plan coming into this. Certainly had some really good players, and their quarterback, Julian Sayin, played a really nice game for a first-time true starter. I'm Bobby Burton, joined today by Rod Babers and Tony Hills, 2 lifetime Longhorns. Both have played for the Longhorns and in the NFL. Rod, I want to start with you and just get your initial thoughts on this game.
I'm honestly I was a little disappointed in the opening script for Sark. I was a little uninspired by it. I thought originally you would have a little bit more innovation, a little bit more creativity, I think higher rates of pre-snap motions and shifts. Some of the staples. I didn't see a lot of the screen game early on from Sark, which are easy completions. The deep shots that are usually kind of predetermined deep shots, maybe they weren't there. I got to go back and watch the film, but I was a little uninspired by the script from Sark, and then I don't think Arch played very well. I think Arch struggled, to try to get into a rhythm. Like I said, going back to what I say initially, I don't think Sark gave him any easy throws, easy completions. I think that's a big part of getting a quarterback into a rhythm, and that didn't happen. You saw him actually make some throws late in the game, but I think Arch struggled. I think the learning curve for Arch is going to be, a little bit more steeper than we initially thought. And I was wrong I thought Sark would come out and unleash Arch. I think I said that a couple of times. I was wrong about that because Arch isn't ready for that. The running game actually performed better than I thought overall offensively. Defensively, I know some people will talk about the defense and criticize it, and we could be nitpicky with the defense, but they only scored 14 points. They let the world don't fire defensively. I think for me, the story is I thought the passing game would have more to offer, and the passing game was just it was mediocre for most of the game for different reasons, and that was disappointing because I thought you would get be able to access more lethal dimensions of the offense with Arch Manning, and we really didn't see that. We did see him under center more. We thought we'd see that. We did see him scramble and some design runs. We thought we'd see more of that, but ultimately the offense stalled. Couldn't find a rhythm, couldn't find an identity, just couldn't find any. It didn't have juice at all. It's weird.
Tony, I want to start. I want to go to you real quick before we go into the stats. That last play call, 4th and 5, what happened on that blitz? You're an offensive lineman. What happened there?
Yeah. So when you go back and you look at it and you see the center put up the 5 hands, he's alerting the 5 offensive linemen that in that kind of bunch formation that Patricia likes to run with the different linebacker secondary personnel. He's letting you know that we're 5 for 5. So what happens is you have to identify the 3 down linemen. Usually those are the big numbers, your 90s, your 60s, your 70s, whatever, right? You identify those 3 numbers, and then you identify 2 players that you're going to say are the backer and the down lineman and the backer, right? The Mike. So what happens is I'm looking at the right side of the line. I see on the back side we're picked up, 4 for 4. But when I'm looking at the right side of the line and I see Baker start to work inside and I see the secondary drop and the guy come off free off the edge, I know for a fact that that's his man. And usually what happens as an offensive tackle, that 90% of your work is always going to be on your outside shoulder. Right, you're rarely unless an empty set where you have somebody blitzing your inside gap. Do you set inside? And even that, there's a dual set. So you set vertical, being able to match whether the guy's coming in and you're getting a guy dropping on the outside, or you got your defensive end coming in and the guy dropping on the inside. You can make that connection. That didn't happen, which gave him a free run with Arch. Now, to Arch's credit, it just goes to show you how strong he actually is to be able to shake that and still complete the pass. Unfortunately, the pass was rushed. We're running a route short of sticks, and that's the end. That's ball game, folks. So that's where we are. All in all, man, I tell you this: the things that we talked about early in the show what the offensive line can't do. Right, we can't get pre-snap penalties. I think Baker had 2 or 3 of those. We can't have the holding penalties. We got to be able to control what we control. And so, those were disappointing. But what is a light in this game, guys, is we can run that freaking ball. We can run that ball. And as long as you can do that, you have something to lean on. I'll say this. Texas picked its best time, its absolute best time to have one of their worst games, right? So you can only continue building up from here. They'll learn from this, and I believe that they'll be okay going through the season. But I saw the same thing that you saw, Rod. I just thought there was inconsistency, not just on the field, but also within the play calling, right, throughout. I thought there was a lack of continuity throughout the game with what we were wanting to do. And I really didn't understand the game plan. We were very vanilla. That's not like us. Now, we can look at that and say, okay, is that because we're not wanting to put too much pressure on the young line as it pertains to the shifts and the motions and the changes that you get on defense when you have all of these different, puzzles moving around with the motions? Maybe so, but we've never looked that vanilla in the offense. And so I'm curious to see if Sark looks at that moving forward and says, hey, let's get back to doing what we do and getting Art some easier throws, because this was a tough game for him. But he'll go back, he'll look at the tape, and he'll continue to get better off of that.
All right, we'll go back to that in just a minute. If Matt, our producer, will bring up the stats in just a second. But first, Matt, I want to say thank you to our sponsor. Each and every post-game show this year going to be brought to you by our friends over at Flight. It's the next generation of light beer. They're back for the third year here with us at On Texas Football with 95 calories. It's an easy drinking upscale light beer designed to elevate your taste buds. Clear, crisp, but with just 2.6 carbs per serving. Flight is an easy to drink light beer. Try Flight from Yingling, and thank you to Flight and the Faust Distribution Company for their sponsorship of our postgame show. All right, let's go to those stat lines, Tony and Rod. I want to look at this. A little surprising here, the stats for Arch Manning going into the third quarter were definitely different than they ended up. They actually looked respectable at 17 of 30 for 170. But to Rod, you and Tony's point, that was really a lot of it done in the fourth quarter when Texas was behind by 2 scores. And they started pushing the ball downfield a little bit more, came away with 1 touchdown, 1 interception. It was an uneven performance overall for Arch Manning. Texas also rushing for 100+ yards on the day. Good game running the ball. Rod, what do you think?
Yeah, I'm surprised they were able to run the ball so well, and they definitely found something in the run game to start in the second half. And I thought that would make at least give them some easier completions in the passing game, because they were able to run the football. That really didn't happen. And I think ultimately they got to find, at least Sark has to find a way to get Arch into a rhythm and him into a groove and him confident, because he just didn't play like a confident player. And I think a lot of that is on Sark. I mean, with Quinn, we knew how Quinn was going to get in the groove, right? It was those RPO throws, those little swing screens and swing routes in the flats with the running backs. He's going to get a couple of those, and then boom, it'll open up the passing game a little bit. When the run game is working, I expect the Sark playbook to be wide open. And I think Sark struggled to kind of get Arch into a groove. And I think so they got to find some way to get more synchronicity from a play caller and a quarterback perspective. It's there, guys. Obviously, the raw materials. We've seen it from Sark and we've seen it from Arch. But there's no doubt that they didn't have they stalled offensively. Like they never were able to build on successful concepts and didn't find different things that worked for the passing game and the running game. So yeah, I mean, I'll admit it, Matt Patricia, he kind of outcoached Sark in this one, and I did not expect that. I expected Sark to do what he did to Wink Martindale in that Michigan game. That didn't happen. I'll give Matt Patricia I'll give him the upper hand in this one and say that he won the coaching advantage. And that was not something I thought I'd be saying after the game.
Tony, one of the things you said you liked was that run game from the Longhorns, 37 rushes, 166 yards. They held up pretty good in pass protection too, saved that very last time. What did you think of the Texas rushing game earlier today?
Yeah, I thought when they got committed to it, man, at the end of the day, you started seeing exactly what I believe we would see. In the first half, you get a couple 2-3 yard gains, and then all of a sudden you continue to pound on that wall, and you start seeing those 12-yard pickups, those 8-yard pickups, those 9-yard pickups. When you look at when it's second and 10 and you're able to pick up 7 yards on second down, I mean, and it's a running down. I mean, that goes to show you exactly how much leaps and bounds this offensive line in the running game has made from last year to this year. I think the biggest thing when you look at this game, it goes down to red zone and penalties, right? When you look at the touchdown that Ohio State had, I mean, that drive was stopped twice and they were bailed out by our defense with a couple penalties there. And they were able to punch the ball in on fourth down. When we get our fourth down shot on the red zone, we get stalled on the quarterback sneak. So if you look at the difference in the game, I look at that from a standpoint of what are some minor differences and tweaks that need to be made. From the offensive line perspective, all in all, listen, everybody's learning each other, right? These are live bullets, guys. It's flying. It's a lot different from practice. There's things that are happening, game time situations. You're managing clock. You're managing emotions. There's a lot of things that's happening in this moment. And all of these guys are experiencing these things for the first time. If I'm looking at it from a 30,000-foot view, although we didn't get the result that we wanted, when I look at what we can grow on, it wasn't a situation to where we went in there and got dominated. That's not what happened, right? We had some misfires. Arch didn't play his best game. There was a lack of continuity offensively for Texas. And then there was a couple plays here and there that got over our defense's head that allowed, Ohio State to go in and do what they needed to do. That's the layout of the game. I mean, even if you look at the numbers, it shows the dominance of how we were on the ground versus what Ohio State's defense was able to do. So it wasn't like they just came out and did whatever they wanted to do with us. They have a really good secondary, and we weren't able to push the ball down the field like we wanted to. But I think as we continue to grow and get better, we'll see something different. And then in the same point, here's a big point to be made. I believe as the season continues to go on, Sark will understand what type of quarterback Arch is, because a lot of those misses were on crossing routes in the middle of the field, right? A lot of those exciting plays were down the seam, hitting them in the streak, hitting them on stride. So we got to figure out what type of plays does Arch Manning like to run. Similar to how Vince was, Rod, you saw that, right? Like, what does Vince like to do, right? So the menu twos, crossing patterns, all of those things, that was his thing. Deep ball, he could do it, but that really wasn't what he did, right? So we have to figure out, those two have to figure out what type of a player Arch is. But listen, we have some of the best coaches in the land, and I look forward to seeing what they do after this.
All right. Hey, I'm going to ask you guys a question about the defense, and then we're going to go talk a little positives and negatives from this game. But one of the stats I had to give you guys, if I told you that Texas would hold Ohio State to 203 total yards before this game, who would you have thought wins this game?
Oh, man.
Texas outgained Ohio State by more than 100 yards, but Texas was playing behind most of the day. It was not pretty in that regard, but the Texas defense does look like it's legitimate. Rod, what do you think overall of the defensive performance? And then we'll go positives and negatives.
I know that's crazy, Bob, that you said that. And then they were rushing, because I remember saying the running game is not going to travel. I remember saying, obviously wrong about that. The running game did travel. And you actually held them, what would you say, Bobby, overall to
203 yards. And lost the game.
You were your own worst enemy all game long.
Yep.
You made the big mistakes. Basically, this is one of those games where, because now there weren't a lot of big plays overall on either side, so few of those big plays to blow the game wide open, it basically it shrank the margin of error. So basically, you're talking about whoever made the big mistake or the most mistakes was going to lose this game, and that was Texas. Texas, the penalties, right? They were critical. That Colin Simmons face mask, and then that, I think it was a Malik Muhammad, like I think they called it on McDonald, but it was actually Malik Muhammad. It was like a holding or something on that play. That was big on that drive, because those were critical moments. They drive extenders. Those drives were dead. It was like Pet Cemetery. You brought them back to life. And then the turnovers, from Arch, ultimately. I mean, he didn't play a great game, but then ultimately it was exacerbated by the turnovers. And in a game like this, I mean, those are backbreakers. So for me, I think we're talking about good things now, positive.
Yeah, I want to ask you the defense as a whole. What did you think of the defense?
I think that's a positive for me. The defense, I thought ultimately did a good job considering they weren't complemented very well by the offense. There was not a lot of complimentary football. They were left on an island. Now, pass rush, I think Longhorn fans would have wanted to see more, havoc plays and see the pass rush be able to be more dynamic, T Hills, and be more effective. That's something we also need. It's like now we have to reevaluate. I'm glad we got kind of this come to Jesus moment and this reality check. We need this. I remember playing on teams when we had these reality checks in the locker room, T Hills, and these reality check moments. Like, all right, everybody got to get back to the basics on this one. We all were a little bit overblown in our expectations and all that kind of stuff. And I think the reality check for the defense is if the pass rush, y'all talking about elite pass rush, that's going to really be able to affect the game and win a game for you. We didn't see that in this game.
We did not. And you look at the sack total, 0 sacks for the Longhorns, only 1 tackle for loss. Not many havoc plays from the Texas defense. Exactly. In fact, Ohio State had more of those. Tony, I am going to start with you. Let's talk positives and negatives from this game. What's the biggest positive takeaway from the 2025 opener for you?
Well, I would say it's a team thing. The big positive takeaway is that you listen, when it's 7 minutes left in the game and you haven't put any points on the board, you can easily say, pack it up, let's go in. Texas fought all the way to the end and even gave us some excitement there right towards the last couple of minutes, right? So I think being in those type of pressure situations and understanding, how do we get over the hump next time? Right. I think that's good. I think all in all, again, when you're talking about what this offensive line is in its first experience, when you grade it out, it didn't grade out terribly, guys. I mean, did they have some things that they want to get back? Yes. But all in all, when you look at that run game and you look at when they gave Arch time, this is why I talk about there was a lack of continuity, Bobby, because when they gave Arch time and they gave him time, there was either a drop pass or a missed throw. Right. So I believe that there was a big leap for the offensive line in this particular game, going against some great players, because make no mistake about it, Ohio State, you can say what you want to say. All in all, they are the top team in the country. And for Texas to go out there and to dominate that line of scrimmage, at least in the run game like that, that is a positive that we can take and say, all right, look, we're going to build off of this. And then maybe we have more play action. Maybe we have more RPO because we're able to dominate the trenches like we did. So that's the positive. The negative, if you look at it, we took points off the board in multiple ways, right? I know we talk about the Colin Simmons penalty, but the LaFoul penalty that would have had the safety, right? That's 2 points that comes off the board right there. Right now, we're talking about a different situation in the way that the Ohio State runs the game. You have those things, right? Talk about the negative. We've touched on this before with the inconsistency in the passing game. We have to be able to identify who our down linemen are, man. That's football 1-on-1, man. We can't get confused and beat out just because we got guys floating around. So, you got to get in the lab and get that going. And then again, like you guys talked about, I'll just reiterate, like if we're talking about how scary the pass rush is going to be, then we have to see it. And you got to tip your hats off to Ohio State's offensive line, because they stoned our pass rush pretty much the entire game, right? There was very few and far in between when Julian Sands was feeling some sort of pressure. He actually looked very comfortable in the pocket. The couple of pressures that they did get, he still completed the passes. So we got to be able to pick that up. So that's my take on it. But again, guys, like I said at the very beginning, my overall take of this game is that Texas picked the best time to have their worst game, right? We're just going to continue to move and build on top of that.
Rod and Tony, my biggest positive takeaways, Rod, you said the defense. Tony, it really felt like you were talking about the fight of this team to not give up as the biggest positive. I'm going to talk about a couple of individuals that I thought had really, really nice games that we talked about all last off season, but we didn't know for sure what they would look like. How about Grayson Littleton? making a couple of big time plays in the secondary, breaking up passes, and then also the tight end Jack injuries. He ended up with 4 catches in this game for 50 yards, made a couple of really tight window catches too. I think there are a lot of positives. I think Arch Manning will get better as the season goes on. This is his first real game against a really good defense and a really good defensive play caller. I think that'll happen in time. And I think there were a lot of positives, whether it's the offensive line coming together a little bit, the stinginess of the Texas defense, the run defense I thought was better than maybe you would have thought going into the first game of the season against a run-heavy team in Ohio State. I look at it, and while Texas lost 14-7, it was a competitive game. And that was, Texas had the ball and failed in red zone 2 consecutive times inside the Ohio State 10 and got 0 points. If Texas scores on just one of those 2, that's a different ball game.
Yep.
A totally different ball game with 6 minutes or 5 minutes left, what have you. I do want to ask you guys about this. Let's flip over to negatives now. Our red zone woes, number 1 for all of us. Do I hear an amen? I guess is my question on that. Rod, what do you think?
It's now officially, but it was even last season. It's a systemic issue, right? Because it's existed over multiple seasons. You've had a below average to even at times even bad red zone offense over multiple seasons now. Actually, since Bijan and Rojo left, basically. Your red zone offense has been below average or even mediocre to bad. That's a problem. Yeah. And that's on Sark. Sark's got to figure that out because you've had as many offensive players drafted as any team in the league, any team in college football in that time span. So talent ain't the issue.
What are you thinking, Tony? Do you think the red zone woes is the number 1 issue right now?
Yeah, absolutely. Because it's like we talked about. We had multiple trips in there. And we walked away with no points, right? And so my thing is, I know we have this enamored thing when it comes to analytics and things of that nature. You never want to second guess, your decisions. But hey, man, if we're getting down and it's 3rd and 2, 3rd and 3 on the goal line, and we're not punching it in, we might need to just look at taking points, right? Because what's the point of going all the way down there and not getting anything on the board, right? Because the thought process is, okay, well, this team has to go 99 yards. Okay, well, no, they don't. All they have to do is get a couple first downs, slow play the clock, and now the time is shortened. So therein lies a win for them too. So we might need to start looking at what taking points is. And then another thing to Rod's point is, what does the system look like for us? Right on 4th and goal. Listen, everybody is sitting there ready for the quarterback sneak. They got a 6'4", 230-pound quarterback. They're ready. They're loading up the box, guys. And as much as I love the physicality of the game, a lot of times we got to use some smarts too. If they're going to load the box in, can we get off tackle? If they're going to load the box, can we get a play action pop over the top with the tight end? Like the point is to get into the end zone, right? And so I look at that and say, okay, we have to start really evaluating what's going on. And I know when you look at red zone, the first thing you think of is offensive line. I get it. But let me tell you something. If all of the A gaps and B gaps are loaded, I don't care. You can have perennial all pros across that line, man. At the end of the day, let's go to the soft spot of the defense and get inside the end zone, right? When you look at Ohio State lining up their big defensive tackle in the background, right, and saying we're going forward, that's fine. It's man on man. And when you go back and look at Texas defense, there were gaps in there for that to be able to happen. They weren't all wedged in the A and B gaps like it was when we tried to go down on 4th and goal. So we got to look at these things, evaluate it, and start figuring out how do we overcome this, because it's going to cost us. And it already has. It cost us last year, the semifinals, and it cost us today against Ohio State. We got to get this fixed.
I'll also say this. Can I say this about real quick, though? That's interesting because I agree with T. Hills. Last year, we saw Sark go out of his way to avoid those power situations, right? That was short yard situations against Georgia. He would call it ending around. He'd call, Silas Bowden, I believe, against Arizona State, short yard. Instead of going kind of a traditional route to hand off the football or go quarterback sneak, he decided to use innovation and creativity, all right, to give him the strategic schematic advantage in those situations. And yet here, I think ultimately, this was Sark trying to figure out, are we that kind of team? Like, can we now, with a new offensive line, new quarterback, right? New look, new identity offensively, can we go and just, play bully ball when we got to? And move another human being against the will. And ultimately he found out that no, not against elite teams like Ohio State. You're still not that kind of team. And I think maybe that's part of the disappointment, is that he thought maybe this was a situation where you could be, because they were running a lot of power gap schemes, as you know, and having success in this game. And I thought in that situation, I think maybe Sark thought, hey man, we can just play bully ball and go quarterback sneak, and it did not work at all.
I would say this: Ohio State's first touchdown came on the exact same play they scored a touchdown against Texas to go up 21-14, by the way.
Wow.
That little power run.
Powerful back lead.
They put off guard. Yep. They same one that they used against Texas effectively. Anthony Hill almost hit him in the hole, but didn't quite get him and get a knock on his leg. So he went in the end zone pretty easily there on their fourth down and goal play. My other negatives, obviously, penalties today. I thought they were a little bit tough on Texas. The Colin Simmons to the face mask penalty was huge. In retrospect, the Manny Muhammad, but also the 3 false starts on the offense. I think 2 from Brandon Baker, 1 from Ryan Wingo as well. And then the other negatives, I thought Arch was high with the ball and lacked touch at times. He was trying to hammer a nail with a sledgehammer, if that makes sense. He didn't need a sledgehammer sometimes. Just needed to, I remember particularly the one over the middle to Wingo in the red zone, where he really went heavy at his legs, and that's just not going to happen. And then did not hit some guys when they were open as well. So he has some growth to do as well. We're going to hear from Steve Sarkeesian in his opening press statement here momentarily as well as we keep going here. Let's get to a couple of comments here. I want to get through them right now, guys. We've got time. This is from Scott Sturgeon. We've got time. Keep to fix this. Keep the faith. I agree. It's Bobby Betronic. Arch played like Garrett Steven hates field goals more than he likes winning. The moment looked too big for us right now. It did for 3 quarters or 3.5 quarters. I would agree with it. It did not feel too big late in that game. And so I want to challenge that a little, because I was really disappointed in the game from a fight/execution standpoint until the final quarter. I thought Texas amped it up a little bit there, and I think because of that, they'll be better off. Let's go to Mars. What is Sark's fixation and or malfunction at the goal line? Are the issues today the kind that are usually worked out between game 1 and game 2? Maybe at quarterback, but I don't know about offensive line and that short yardage run game. Rod, isn't that something you spend all offseason trying to figure out?
Yeah, and like I said, guys, these are issues. Short yardage, goal line, red zone are issues that Sark has, I think, are more systemic, that Sark has had to deal with over multiple seasons now. And this is with last year you had a good O-line. Like you ran for 160 some yards in this game, and there were times your O-line provided good protection. You can't just go, O-line can't get a push. It's something else going on with Texas in the red zone, goal line, and short yardage. It's multifactorial, and it's a hell of a mystery, because, like I said, Sark's a damn good coach, and he ain't figured it out. He can't. Like, he has literally he cannot figure out the red zone and the goal line, the short yardage. And it's not like you're dealing with, a coach that can't solve problems. He solved problems really well in the offseason, and we know that he has this fixation with figuring it out. But I am with you, Morris. I watch a lot of film, and there is no doubt since Bijan and Rojo left, he has not been able to fix those issues. And I'm not gonna say it's just a Bijan Rojo hangover. That's kind of been my assessment it might take, but there's no doubt he can't figure it out. Like, he can't. That's something that has persisted. Last year, your offense, you had the most explosive offense in the country last year, more explosive plays than any other offense in the country, and yet still red zone couldn't figure it out, and short yardage, Sark was running reverses instead of running the ball in power situations. He knows.
I think one of the other things we talked about this offseason, guys, Texas may lack touchdown scores.
Oh, don't say that.
Who scored touchdowns against Ohio State last time? That speed counted with Jaden Blue. Does Texas? I thought, and I will say this: I didn't see a lot of open receivers downfield for the Longhorns. Not on a consistent basis. Did y'all? Anybody?
No.
Yeah.
No,
and
they made it to where they were going to make the other guys beat you. They were going to cover Wingo. They knew how dangerous he was. They had double coverage linebackers underneath. They played him the same way we played Jeremiah Smith. And they made DJ Moore and Livingston say, hey, you guys beat us, and couldn't get it done.
Yeah, I think that was something that I was worried about coming into this first game was who's going to be the touchdown scorer for the Longhorns this year. I don't know. Now is my answer, right? Because Parker Livingstone came up with a beautiful catch. Don't get me wrong about that. That was a great, and he fought through the defensive back. How many times have we seen people been unsuccessful in fighting through those defensive backs like that? So he made a great play on the ball. That was terrific. But we needed more of that earlier today as well. All right, so we've got a number of questions to jump to, and we will get to those right now. Let me go to this one from Buddy Pal. Chief Big Guy, this will be the best defense we play all year. I don't know. Let's see what Oklahoma has this year. Doing it in their house in game one is a tall task. Agree with that. We have 3 G5 games and the bye to get ready for UF. Is that what the doctor ordered for this team, Rod or Tony?
Yeah. And don't forget, Georgia will have something to say about that best defense thing, too. Just want to throw it out there. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I believe, listen, when you say we saw the best defense we'll play all year, look, at the end of the day, we're in the SEC. We're going to see a lot of good defenses. What we have to work on is we have to start looking at, like, the defense is a nameless gray face. We have to fix our issues. And that red zone is a big issue that has to be fixed. And being able to get the ball in the intermediate zones with Arch is something that has to be fixed, period and point blank. The false starts, those things have to get cleared up, and those things will happen. One of the things that I want to see from Baker is I need to see him sit down on bull rushes, right? Because some of those times those passes were rushed because he's getting bull rushed on the right side and not anchoring down and closing up the pocket, which is causing Arch to scramble and get off of his keys and his reads. And so there's a lot of things that we have to clean up offensively. But all in all, man, look, it's game one and you're playing 1-3. You're playing good on good, and you go in there and you lose 14-7. I mean, again, it really just brings me back to what I said at the beginning. We picked the best time to have the worst game. They're going to continue to grow on that. And those games that are coming up will give Arch some more confidence to be able to understand what it's like to play in these type of environments and to find a rhythm. I think the next 3 weeks are going to be Arch finding his rhythm and understanding who he is and start knowing who Arch is, and then getting back to the type of offensive play call that he wants. And then the next thing is, I'll say this, when you talk about the goal line, from the perspective of an offensive lineman, there's usually 2 or 3 goal line plays that we're running these no matter what. I need Texas to identify what that is. Is that off counter? Is that lead? Is that trap? Whatever that is, we have to identify that and work that constantly in practice, because if you don't work it in practice, you can't think that you're just going to call it in the game and it's going to execute. That's not how it works in goal line, period and point blank.
All right, guys, Matt, our producer, has the opening statement from Steve Sarkeesian in the postgame.
Really disciplined game, the 0 turnovers, only 2 penalties. They took advantage of their opportunities when they got them, so credit to them. As far as we go, as we said coming into this game, this game would serve as a really good measuring stick of where we were at, where we needed to improve, and the things that we were good at. And I thought defensively we played a very good football game. It's unfortunate the first touchdown drive they have, we have 2 significant penalties. We have the face mask penalty, and then we have the DPI. The face mask penalty, I believe, was on 3rd down, and that leads to the touchdown. And then, we were offensively early on. I thought our plan was pretty good. We were playing physical football. Quite frankly, we just didn't quite have rhythm in the passing game yet, but we had a couple opportunities there to move it, and that didn't happen. We finally kind of woke up and started moving the ball, and we don't score from the 1 yard line. We have another opportunity with a 4th and 3, I believe, from the 8 that we don't score on, and then inevitably they hit the long pass, which we had really minimized the explosive plays, and they hit the long pass. But the one thing I was proud of coming out of this was our fight, our ability to go down and score. I think with 3:28 to go, to get a stop on defense, to get the ball back with an opportunity to go tie the game. And we had a couple chances, and we just didn't quite make the plays we wanted to make. So, this is the first game of a season, of a long season. And I sat at SEC Media Days and said, I think the days of a national champion being undefeated are over, especially when you play in games like this and you play in the conference we play in. So we've got an opportunity here over the next month to really clean some things up and to get ourselves in a great frame of mind to get ready for SEC play. I thought for the most part we handled this environment really well for a first game with a lot of new faces. I was proud of some guys who was their first time in real action, doing some good things for us. But we'll get better. We've got a good football team. That's a good football team we played today. We'll get better, and we'll be okay.
Sark, talking a little bit about the expectations there, he went on to say a little bit later in the press conference, guys, and I wanted to hear your thoughts on this. Sarkeesian on quarterback Arch Manning, quote, the expectations were out of control on the outside, but I'd say let's finish the book before we judge it. This is one chapter, and we have a long season to play. That is Sark on Arch Manning. Let's kind of start and talk about Arch's play. He finishes, I believe, 17 of 30 today, 1 touchdown, 1 interception. I think he got 100 of his yards in the fourth quarter alone. So he's really kind of a sleepy, sluggish day until the fourth quarter. He heated up a little bit. A lot of people rushing to judgment right now on Arch Manning. Tony, do you think they need to – are they rushing prematurely, like Sark says?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, guys. Listen, if you're looking at what a quarterback is going to be game one, then don't look at Peyton Manning because he was terrible as a rookie, right? Horrible, horrendous, like bust is what some writers were writing about when it came to the great Peyton Manning, right? So like we can't look at one game and then say this is who this individual is. It takes experience, it takes growth, and at the end of the day, this is his first full year starting, and it's a tall task to go into the national championships home and get a victory. It's not too many people that are doing that, right? And so I believe that he's only going to get better. I believe that as Sark and Arch come together to figure out what they do best collectively as the head coach and as the quarterback, and then effectively as the team, this thing is going to be a moot point come a couple of weeks from now. Like, and if I know anything about Arch and his demeanor, like he's going to have higher expectations on himself than anybody on the outside could ever have. So he's not worried about it at all. And I'm not worried about it either. He's going to learn from this experience. And you saw glimpses of what he's capable of. Listen, putting that ball in that type of situation, in that small window to Jack in the fourth quarter, that's no easy task. And so if he can do it, then he can continue to do it and he can continue to grow on there. There's things in this tape that he can grow on. There was misses. Quarterbacks have off days. Crossing routes are the biggest thing that I'm seeing with him. And then, like you talked about early, Bobby, his velocity on passes that doesn't need to be there. Sometimes you got to put a little touch on that, right? Which is so funny because last year we were talking about how we wish Quinn would put a little more power into the throws. And so, it's always going to be something to talk about, but I believe Arch will grow from this, learn from this, and he has a bright future ahead of him. And there's a lot of season left, guys, a lot of season left.
Hey, before we go there, I want to say this. Arch needs a change up from Scott Sturgeon. And also, Rod, this one. Arch missed a lot of medium short throws. Wide receivers need to improve. The running game is good. O-line is good, and defense is good. I didn't expect Arch to be Heisman. I didn't expect an offensive game plan and QB that bad. I will add this. I got a text from Brian Irwin, Coach Brian Irwin, who was out with us. I asked him, were receivers open downfield in the all-22 look, Rod and Tony? He said, not really. He said Ohio State had some good defensive coverage. What did y'all think here? And what do you think, Rod, about Nick V's comments?
Yeah, I mean, it's I agree. I think he missed some throws. I think when Sark did scheme open some guys, simply the ball's behind him or the ball's a little too high or a little too low. But that's okay. I mean, he just had, like I said, I think T. Hills is right. Unfortunately, I had some bad games. I don't want to start bringing them up. Bad games I had on the 40 acres, and T. Hills was much better player than me, so I'm not going to call him out. But I'm sure he had some games that he'd like to forget. And you know, and when those are big games, you know, as a player, it drives you. So I'm sure for Arch, there's no doubt it's a game that he's gonna want to forget for the most part. Let's just be honest about that. Right, Sark, and that's what it. I kind of go back to Sark. I thought, you know, when you feel like he's a quarterback too, and your quarterback is not, when he ain't feeling that. I love the conversation I had with David Ash, your third Longhorn, because he described the quarterback position in such a great way, such a related way. He's like, man, sometimes I would go out there and I'd make a throw and I'd go, damn, she's live today. He talked about like, oh yeah. He's like, let's go, baby. And I never saw that moment with Arch. Right? It was like that moment. He was like, ooh, oh yeah, I got live on today. I'm ready to roll. Like, that's the quarterback. That to me, that's a play caller's, you know, job to like, hey, get him in a position where he can make that live throw, whether it's something you got a scheme open or it's the favorite play call that he likes. Get him in a rhythm, get him in a groove. And that never happened. So I think Sark's going to go back to the basics. So is Arch, and try to figure out the synchronicity. Because sometimes Sark would scheme open a nice throw, and I'm like, oh, he's wide open. And then Arch would miss it.
The first throw of the game, the first throw, that roll, we said it was going to be a waggle to the right.
And it was
wide open. It was wide open.
So Sark schemed open a few. I don't want to take Sark's, he ain't doing nothing. No, he schemed open, but then Arch would miss. So they were so out of sync. And then to have the running game working and be so out of sync like that. So like I said, I think Teals is right, man. It's just everybody's kind of got to go back to work here and figure out, you know, what they do well. What's the identity now of this offense? Like what, especially the passing game. Actually, the run game, I'm not even talking about the run game. Run game might have found their identity. I think they run a lot of gap power schemes. They're running downhill on folks. And I think the running game's going to be just fine. Passing game wise, I haven't seen a Texas passing game kind of look that out of sorts in a while, especially for Sark. You know, it's just been maybe 2021 when he first got here with Casey and Hudson. You know, you had a game like that or two, but that's to have Arch be in this system for so long and Sark not able to dial up certain plays that are compatible with his strengths. That was like, to me, it was a little, like I said, I was taken aback. I thought, oh, he's going to unleash. So he been working on these Arch plays for 2 years, man. He been saving these. Yo, working on this. And I didn't see any of it. And I honestly just shocked, because if you look at Quinn's best games, they were all these types of games. The
Early
game in 22, the Bama game in 23, Michigan 24. So, man, Quinn was out there dealing, and I thought that's what we're going to get. So we didn't get that. We didn't get that. That's okay. It's not going to look like I thought it would look. That's I'm fine with that. But they're on the journey that T-Hill we've been on before, is all right, get better every week. That's the journey now.
That is the journey.
I gotta get better. I can't afford a regression. Every week I gotta get better if I want to still get to my ultimate goal.
Tony, I've got a question for you coming up. We're going to keep going to the chat line here. But first, I want to say thank you again to Flight, the next generation of light beer with only 95 calories. It's an easy drinking upscale light beer designed to elevate your taste buds with just 2.6 carbs per serving. Flight is an easy to drink beer with a crisp, clean taste. Try Flight from Yuengling, thanks to the fine folks at Flight and our friends at Faust Distributing. Hey, guys, this one is quite fair, I think. Seth Alcozer, with how they outgained Ohio State, shut down Smith, relatively speaking, and played so well on defense, I thought this would be a W. A lot of seasons left. That hits into what you were saying, Rod, there. And then also this from Daniel Earp. All the things aside, penalties made the difference. I mean, are these the two best defenses in the nation? I can't say that yet because we haven't seen everybody else. But I certainly think we saw two pretty salty defenses. What did you think of both the Texas and Ohio State defense, Tony?
Yeah, no, listen, I thought they played really well. Listen, Caleb Downs is a player for a reason, right? And that secondary, you talk about not having anybody open. Like even the catches that were made were contested. They have sticky corners, man. And I took that from my man Rod. I heard him say that before. So they have sticky corners, man. And at the end of the day, the pass rush did get home a couple times. They were able to get pressure in certain situations. Look, Ohio State has a really good defense, right? But it's to be expected when you have a 5-time Super Bowl winning defensive coordinator on your squad. I mean, listen, it's not like he doesn't know what to do, right? And he has the players to do it. Ohio State is a good program, and they have good players. And they came out there and they showed, who they were today, and they'll continue to do that throughout the season. On the other side, Texas is a very good defense. Listen, and to that point, it was the penalties. Guys, it wasn't but one drive where they went over the top on us. It wasn't because they took the ball 90-something yards, 80-something yards, 70-something yards and shoved it down our throats. That's not what happened. We had to stop. We get a penalty. We keep the drive alive. We get another stop. We get a penalty. We give them more yards. And then, listen, they punched the ball in on 4th down. Like, we got to really take this into a 30,000-foot view and see what happened within this game. It wasn't like we're not talking about Texas went up to Ohio State and got stomped. That's not what happened. We had situations in the game where there were some lulls on both sides of the ball for Texas, and the penalties cost them, right? And so those are things that you look at and you say, okay, we can continue. We can build off of this. Those are things that we can control. We can get better in these areas. But what we also got is we got to see players step up. Littleton, listen, this guy's on the map now. People know his name. He made some really, really good plays. The pass rush will get home. The pass rush will get home. They'll figure out what they need to do, and those guys will take off. So as it pertains to the best defenses in the nation, that question won't be answered until the end of the season. We won't know that until then. But for Texas and Ohio State defense, I like what I saw from both of them, and there's bright futures. And listen, at the end of the day, I can foresee us seeing this team again.
Mm-hmm.
Tony, there's somebody that needs a little positive karma in their life, and I want you to do this. Tony, can you give us your opening line from your Hump Day with Hills opening, please? I need it. Give it to us, man. Inject some positivity into our lungs here.
Hey, listen, what's going on? You know what? We're going to do it with this, OTF. What's going on, OTF? It's your man, Tony the Tycoon. We are here today. Look, I know we didn't have the result that we wanted, but I can promise you this. Whether we're looking in the skies for oatmeal pies, ain't no water in our eyes, because we will bounce back, Jack. I promise you that. You understand me? Let's get this thing going, man. We ready to roll. It's all right. One monkey don't stop no show, baby. Let's go.
All right, good stuff. We needed to up. We were after a loss. You need to take. You said something that I think is accurate, Tony. After a loss, yes, the immediate gut reaction, the visceral reaction, is just dread. Right? You can't believe you just lost a game. I thought that was a winnable game for Texas. I literally, after that completion to Jack Indries down the left sideline, I said, "Oh boy, he may be a little different." Right? I mean, he may have Arch may have a little something in him. Just came up short after that. But guys, a couple other thoughts. This one, the running game, Anish Singh says Chad Scott better pound the table, run some triple option going forward. It's nasty. I will say this: Arch's legs were really the only thing that helped Texas in the first half.
Yeah, that's
otherwise that offense was in molasses for the most part. They got some movement, but it wasn't a great one. Guys, I do want to ask y'all both this. Y'all saw Grayson Littleton, Tony. You mentioned that, or actually, I'll pin this on Rod. We saw Grayson Littleton, true freshman.
Mm-hmm.
Rod, you see anybody else out there that you saw as a true freshman playing a little bit today?
Yeah, I thought Lance Jackson.
Yep,
him out there as a young buck out there. Dalen McCutcheon. So him out there, and this game was tight, right? The entire game, right? So if you see a freshman out there that's already earned playing time on this roster, that you talk about reasons to be optimistic and positives you can take from a loss. Grayson Littleton is the truth. I mean, I told you guys, I asked Coach Akita, I was like, "Is it real? Like, is it?" He's a freshman. Y'all think he won't play versus Ohio State? He's like, "Oh yeah." I think he's ready. He said he was ready. I told you guys, like, it's very possible. And honestly, it looked like at times, other than when they went the big nickel, when they had Johnny McDonald, Derek Williams, and Taft out there, that he was their best option. And I remember I said Ohio State's going to attack him. When they see him, they're going to be like, oh, the booth gonna give an alert. Hey, there's a freshman down there in the slot, just so you know. Put Jeremiah, and they went after him, right? They went after him a couple of times, and he rose to the occasion. So that what I thought would end up being potentially a vulnerability, they would attack. They tried to attack it. It was not a weakness because that young man is the truth. So you do have a budding star in the secondary in Grayson Littleton. And Lance Jackson already playing, I thought was really promising because he played early. I want to say it might have been like the fourth drive or something like that. I was like, who is that?
Yep, no doubt. They did start Connor Stroh. I want to mention this, not a freshman, but they did start Connor Stroh as well at left guard. We had been reporting. NATO came in for a couple of drives in the second quarter. But Stroh, I believe, finished that game and was in all of the second half, I think. And I don't know. It looks like he may have won that job in camp. They certainly play like that. Got a couple of questions here for you guys, and I think this is Longhorns says, was the game too big for Arch? His mechanics looked terrible. No footwork and lots of rush passes when pressure wasn't really there. Were the checkdowns there that Arch missed? Do you agree? And I want to bring this up too, because a guy said something that I think is legitimate as well. In 2006, Colt McCoy lost to Ohio State 24-7 and had 1 touchdown and 2 interceptions in that game. He still went on to beat Colt McCoy. I go back to what Sark said, don't judge a book by the first chapter. And I think the expectations there were big, but I will add and agree with what Lock and Horn said. I thought there were times today when I don't want to say he looked spooked or scared. He just looked hurried. Yes. And he looked rushed unnecessarily. And then when he had time, it looked like he felt awkward almost with how much time he had. And maybe his fundamentals broke down a little bit.
He was late.
Is that a fair assessment, guys, of what y'all thought?
I think you're spot on. Bobby. What I saw was a guy that would have time, and he's pressing. He's pressing. I don't think the moment was too big. I think he wanted it too bad. I believe that's what really happened, right? I think that because to come out listen, do I believe that he feels pressure about his name or anything like that? Not really. But I do believe that he has such a high expectation for who he is that he wanted that game. And look, we saw when Texas lost in the semifinals, we saw Art sitting there looking at, the confetti rain and all of those things of where he wants to be. So to get in that game and understand the magnitude of that game, I want to make the play. And a lot of times the best way you can make a play as a quarterback is just getting the ball to your playmakers and letting them do what they need to do. You don't have to force certain things. And so when you talk about his footwork and fundamentals and things of that nature, a lot of that could be pressing because of him wanting to win that game so bad. The other part of that I saw with Arch was when he's checking his progressions, right? He wasn't, and this is a positive, he wasn't checking his progressions 1 and 2 and then getting out. He was literally looking and had time to look through all of his progressions. He was just missing on the throws, right? And then here's the other thing to that. The throws that he did make, DJ, you got to catch that in the middle of the field. We can't drop those passes. You got to reward the quarterback for getting the ball to you, right? And so I see him more as somebody that was pressing as opposed to the external pressure of the game being on him. That's not what I see from Arch. I just see somebody that really wants to be great and understood that magnitude. And to your point, too, going back a little bit to the line, I saw that, too, when they brought in Stroh in. And listen, when they brought that young man in, 4 or 5 yards a pop on the left side, big movement, big bodies. So, listen, if that's where we're going, I feel real confident moving forward with what we're going to be doing as an offensive line with that guy in there. I like what I saw from that young man today.
Hey, Rod, this might be a better comment, too, even, and a better word use than my hurried comment or anybody else. Can Arch throw a softball? We talked about that. He threw the ball hot quite a bit today, but he played like he was panicking. Was it panic, Rod?
Yeah, like I said, it's hard to kind of find a description for it, but you knew it when you see it, right? And it's like he didn't look comfortable. He didn't look like he was in a rhythm ever as a quarterback. Like think about that interception that he threw, the first one. interception that he threw on that deep comeback to Ryan Wingo. He was late on that throw, and he almost threw it like it was like a 7 route. And it's like, no, dude, it was like that was a comeback route. You got to throw that. You got to anticipate that. But when Ryan Wingo's starting to break down and come out of his break, you need to be at the top of your throwing motion. That thing needs to be coming out. It needs to surprise Ryan Wingo, and it's like, oh, damn, it's right there already. Like, that's how that comeback comes out, and it didn't come out like that. It was like he was waiting for it to come open instead of throwing it open. And it's like some routes you throw open. They're not, you don't wait for them to come open. By the time you wait for them to come open, it's already too late. So I think the anticipatory element to his game needs to improve. Like, no, that route's coming open. And even some of them crossing routes, right? It's like his footwork is off on some of those, but he kind of throws it behind the guy. And it's like, well, you got to, throw it in front so he can catch it and get yak yardage. That's what it's meant for. It's been schemed open for you. So I think he's got to work on the anticipatory element of his game, throwing guys open. And instead of, he's got the arm talent. That's no doubt about that. That's, and he can run, move, and all those things. And right now, it's not all coming together, right? He's using all those things. All those dimensions are being used separately. He's not extending the play to throw. He's running for his life in those scramble situations. I thought we'd have scramble drill where he's like extending the play, and then Ryan Wingo and Parker Livingstone are doing scramble drill and executing that. It wasn't that at all. It was a crisis situation in most of those times. So I just think they got to get back to the point where whatever routes he's comfortable throwing, whatever routes he's comfortable, within the passing game, you got to get to those and figure out what those are, because something's off right now with passing. The running game, I have no complaints about it. Running game is fine. And I don't even know if the protection is that much of an issue. I just think it's more Arch was not confident. That was not a confident quarterback. He just did not look like a confident QB in the pocket at all.
I felt like they did get some push up the middle. Ohio State did. And that seemed to, but that bothers every quarterback, right? I mean, it wasn't overwhelming pressure. Don't get me wrong. But I did feel like that played with his feet a little bit. How about that blitz pickup by Cedric Baxter that one time, though? Woo!
Phenomenal.
That was good. Michael Williams says it's already started. Texas dominated and Arch sucks. We made mistakes and Arch did young player things. 10 years ago, the season is over. No longer. Learn and grow from this. Michael Williams says. Juan Gar says Sark is not being creative with play calling in the red zone. Too predictable. A lot of people talking about the red zone. Jeff Gary also put a super chat up about this. Is there anything in particular that y'all say, hey, we need to do this in the red zone? Is it do away with the quarterback sneak? Is it, make sure you get the ball in Cedric Baxter's hands? Because I will say this, on that 3rd and 3 from the goal line, Cedric Baxter got 2.5 yards.
Yeah.
And the next play was the sneak, right?
Tough yards.
I feel like, tough yards. I feel like Sark probably, in retrospect now, everybody's a genius in hindsight, right? May have given it to the 235-pound running back instead. I mean, if you wanted him back, I want to say this. You wanted Cedric Baxter back for a reason, right?
Yeah.
That's maybe who you give it to in those situations going forward. All right.
Absolutely.
Rod B., I want to ask you about Parker Livingstone in that catch in the back of the end zone, because I felt like you and I talked about it briefly, I believe, right before we went on air. And the Livingstone catch was a little bit rare. And here's why it was rare. That defender was all over him, being physical. It was an older defensive back for Ohio State, by the way. And he was playing with moxie. And Parker Livingstone fought through that and made that catch and kind of gave Texas some life. Is that the kind of play that can help jumpstart an offense? Because it felt like Texas got some confidence after they broke the seal with Parker Livingstone.
No, it's interesting because I hope this is not the case, but you may need more plays like that from your bigger wide receivers while Arch is working on being able to anticipate throws a little bit better, throw guys open. That situation where it's like, no, it's a one-on-one. Give my guy a shot at the football. Can I give my guy a shot one-on-one? And then he goes up and he makes an amazing play for the football. And especially when what's one of the other complaints y'all are making right now too is receivers are not creating separation. That wasn't a lot of separation. There wasn't no separation. That was 50-50 ball. My guy goes up and makes it an 80-20 situation instead of 50-50 situation. And Wingo got that kind of ability too, Livingstone with the big body. And so, you may need a few more of those while they're working on getting their identity in the passing game a little bit more refined and waiting on Arch to work on some of the subtle nuances of his passing game, like anticipating throws and throwing the ball with a little bit more touch. Those things will come. It's obviously the learning curve is steep. He's got to learn those things. We believe he can. He's a Manning. All right. But until that happens, you might need guys that's going to make some freaking plays on the ball. If you're in one-on-one situation, I need you to win. Just go win. And he'll give you a chance to win.
Yeah. I think that this may be a little bit of truth, in my opinion. The offense is more than good enough to win these games. At this point, it's just what's between the ears. Tony, you're a guy that focuses a lot on the mental stuff in your day job, right?
Yeah.
You think there's an element of truth to that?
I mean, absolutely. As an athlete, man, it's not just going out there and the physical part of the game, man. There's a belief system and a know that you have to have intrinsically about how you execute your job. I think one of the things that will help Arch as well is, hey, man, let's find Jack a little bit more. If you're talking about getting the rhythm and passes, your best safety blanket is going to be your tight end. We see it with Patrick Mahomes all the time when he's slinging that thing, and like the gunslinger that he is. When he has off games, the first person he's looking for is Kelsey. Let me get a couple, 5-yard outs, little post corner routes with my tight end for 12, 13 yards and get into the rhythm of this thing, and let's run the ball a little bit and then start getting some confidence about ourselves. But yes, to answer your question, it definitely could be between the ears for Arch. But also, I keep going back to this: experience is your best teacher. Right. I remember you're talking about the 2006 game, which I was in. We have to bring that up, but right.
Yeah.
But yeah, like we had a lot of guys returning from that national championship run, and we had a young quarterback, and that's a huge ask for a redshirt freshman to come out here and say, okay, take us back to the promised land. Right. So in Arch's case, yes, all of the talent is there, but what made Quinn was all the experience that he had as he went through the University of Texas system as QB1. Let's see what happens when Arch starts getting a little bit more experience behind him, when he starts seeing more defenses, when he starts seeing how they want to attack him, when he starts reading in more coverages and understanding who his players are and how to get the ball to them. Let's see what he looks like then. I can't judge him off of game one against the defending national champions, which we only lost by a touchdown in their freaking house. I'm not judging him off of that. Like, I'm just not, man.
I think you're right. Rod, I'm looking at this and thinking about it, and it's just this one's from Jake Roberson, and it's something we talked about earlier in this show. Why didn't Sark help? The rest of it, everybody can read on the screen, but the bottom line is, why didn't Sark help Arch, in your opinion? I mean, was he trying to? I mean, that roll right pass was wide open, and the very first pass of the game, and Arch short hopped it. I mean, there's no better way to put it than that. It
is though. It's interesting because now I'm in. I can't wait to go back and watch it because I'm a masochist, so I'm gonna go back and watch it as soon as I can. My wife's gonna be like, "Why are you watching this game again, bro? What's wrong with you?" I'm like, I gotta go back and track it, baby. I'm sorry, because I'm interested to see, because I feel like Sark was a little bit more conservative in the opening script than I thought he would be, because in these big games, usually, like I said, he unleashes Quinn in these big games. You get a lot of creativity, some of his best, cheat codes he throws out there in these matchups. And you didn't get, I thought the screen game, we talked about that. The screens came later in the game. Thought those would come earlier. That's a quintessential Sark play, right? Throw the screen in there. Didn't see much of it. I thought the pre-snap motions and shifts, the rate of that, I thought was a little bit low early on in those games. RPO game. Sark says, his pass game is an RPO-based offense. I don't think we saw a lot of those early on, a lot of RPOs early. So I got to go back and look at it. Obviously, this is just me off the first watch. But, yeah, I'm with you, Jake. I'm not sure if Sark didn't have a lot of those elements because he's been watching practice and he's watched this arch and went, nah, this arch ain't ready. It's just they don't know, but it's gonna be a longer, steeper learning curve than any of us thought with this young man. He's gonna get there, but it ain't gonna happen overnight, and it's not gonna be an overnight sensation like everybody thought. Or if Sark's having a conservative game plan, lacking all those cheat codes and hacks that we expect. The reverse came a little bit later on. Like I said, the screens came later. If that was the reason that Arch, he didn't amplify Arch's skill set enough with those elements, right? So as the chicken or the egg thing, like I don't know right now after the first watch. I do feel like Sark failed early on in giving them a schematic strategic advantage. And that's usually Sark's game plan and preparation. That's what I think he may be the best in the country. His opening scripts, they're amazing. And I was very uninspired during the opening script. I kept waiting for, the inspiration. I kept waiting to get juiced up going, ooh, he's been working on that all off season. Look at that. Yeah. And I never got any of it. I was never inspired. So I feel like something was lacking on Sark's end too. But he did not get any help from his quarterback. That's for sure. Neither one of them helped each other. Neither one of them inspired the other to I think be better in this game. Both I think failed each other. If you want to, my opinion, they failed each other. Sark failed him, and he failed Sark. It's okay.
I've got to ask y'all this, and this is there's a number of different comments coming in right now, and I want to get to them. And but I want to tell y'all who I thought actually in that comment was the player of the game for Texas in the first half. It was the punter, Jack Bomeister. he was really good. I don't think he was called upon in the entire second half. That's how well Texas moved the ball. Did they punt once in the second half?
That's a great question, Bobby. You might be
I
right.
have to go back and look.
Two fourth. They lost the ball on 3 4th downs, scored a touchdown, and they had an interception.
You're right.
And Texas's 5 possessions. But did they punt at all in the second half? Oh, Texas punted once in the.
Yeah.
Did they punt once in the? I can't read that. I don't know how to read that.
Quarter 4. How?
4.
I don't know how to read. I can't read that. We'll talk about
it.
it.
They had the turnover on downs. They had the interception.
Oh, there's Matt. No, they didn't punt in the second half. Thank you, Matt. I'm sorry, buddy. I couldn't understand that.
The turnover on downs, interception.
Yeah. And then so they had 3 turnovers on downs, right?
Three turnovers on downs.
Or the touchdown.
And the touchdown.
So just that's not bad offensive football, except for you got to put it in the end zone.
Yeah.
You got to put it in the end zone.
That stat right there goes to show you what happened during the game and who Texas is, right? And I know we can't play the what-if game, but I'm saying if you're looking at that, you come out pretty okay with the fact that we have all of this newness around us and everybody's trying to grow into who we're going to. And we know that we're right there in that game. And here's the reality. We can play with anybody. One of the things you talked about, Bobby, that I would be remiss if I didn't mention when you talked about the positive is, man, that Wisner kid is picking up right where he left off. Where he left off. It's like when they put him in and they started letting him go loose on that up-tempo, that's another thing, Rod, I would have loved to see more up-tempo early. Because we started getting loose when we had that up-tempo early, man. So I would love to see some more of that as well. But Wisner looked really good today, and it was good to see.
Yeah, especially if you got the run game going. You can wear a defense out.
I want to get a couple of questions here in or comments. Do we get Tony Hills after every game? So appreciate Tony and your calming spirit. Yes, we're going to talk to Tony about that. Brian Robeson was supposed to join us, but he had a little league game in Gonzales, Texas today, and wasn't going to be able to watch the game in time. A lot of folks, guys, chiming in. When it comes to easy open throws, Arch was much more accurate last season. How much of this was nerves? Daryl Redeker says this was Arch's version of Quinn's Oklahoma State game a few seasons ago. It was not that bad.
Yeah, Quinn was hurt though. Remember that Quinn had a hurt hand. Remember?
Yeah, I remember, but it wasn't that. It wasn't quite that bad, in my opinion. Tube in Texas says, "Sark, take the points next time. We'll improve." That's obviously true. All right, before we go further, we have someone joining us from the field, live on the field right now. That is young CJ Vogel. How you doing, CJ?
What's going on, guys?
Right.
Sitting in the shade. It got a little hot down here. I wasn't expecting it. So, yeah, it was a tough one, wasn't it?
All of 75 degrees hot. I'm sure. Hey, in all seriousness, CJ, loud crowd there at the shoe today. I got a chance to see a little bit of that as well in the first half. Your thoughts on this game, and also in particular what Steve Sarkeesian said in the postgame.
Well, let's start with that crowd noise. Sark said in the postgame it wasn't much of a factor for most of the game. And then Texas didn't slide all the way out on that final fourth down of the fourth quarter. And that was in large part due to the communication issues. He said that was one of the big times that he could point to and say, we didn't communicate all the way across the offensive line. And evidently it cost Texas a chance at tying the game late. But altogether, look, if Arch Manning is the big question mark coming out of week one, I think Texas is in a very healthy spot. And again, the big positive to me is that offensive line. You run for 166 yards. You do so on 4.5 a carry. Texas a year ago wasn't able to muster up 40 yards against teams with the pulse. That's a huge positive for me. Again, Arch is going to watch the tape. Those wide receivers will find the connection down the field. But if that offensive line is able to provide consistent run lanes for Trey Wisner and C.J. Baxter, who look great today, that's a huge positive for me.
We read your quote on air earlier, CJ, about Sark saying, "Don't judge a book by its first chapter." You obviously think there's an element of truth there.
I do. And I think part of it is what Sark mentioned in his postgame too. He said, sometimes for Arch, we got to get him hit early. It sounds it sounds odd, but for some quarterbacks, they got to feel like they're in the game, and to get hit early puts the quarterback mindset of, okay, I'm here to play now. I know what it's like to get hit. I'm ready to rock and roll. And for Arch, I think that's part of it. Sark mentioned it several times, actually, saying, maybe earlier in games we incorporate the quarterback run a little bit more. I didn't think we'd see, a quarterback counter on 1st and 10 at any point today, and yet we saw it a number of times. Mm-hmm. And so with these slow starts, again, it's only one. But for Sark, I think he's already starting the game plan and kind of find the remedies for what those slow starts might entail, and say, hey, we got to get Arch the feel of the game quicker in these starts.
That's one of the things that Rod talked about. CJ, any final takeaways before we let you go here? Beautiful stadium in Columbus, by the way. Excellent turnout all around. Any final thoughts before you have to get out of there?
Yeah, 2 things. I thought Ohio State fans were supposed to be mean, Bobby. It hasn't been that hostile out here. But no, it's been a fun trip out here. You actually hear the planes flying overhead right now. But altogether, look, Julian saying, 5-star cat, for him to come out and play against this Texas defense, manage the game, keep the ball out of harm's way, and really do just enough to put enough points on the board. Again, it was only 14. But hats off to Julian Saint, because I thought that was one of the more impressive storylines to come out of today, is he certainly looked the part of a guy at Ohio State that's going to be a really, really tough beat when it comes down to it at the end of the season.
I agree with you. CJ, thank you so much. We appreciate you, bud. We'll see you tomorrow morning, bright and early, buddy. You have a safe trip back. All right, Hook 'em. See you, man. All right. Hey, CJ just said something that I think that we need to talk about, because Randy Cole mentions this in the chat. I don't see another team holding Ohio State to 14 points. At the end of the day, Texas did just hold Ohio State to 14 points. Now, Ohio State went very vanilla, I thought, in the second half, maybe to protect its young quarterback. That was another thing I was going to say. It felt like Ohio State, when they got that 7 points on the board, they felt like they could protect their young quarterback, whereas Texas was playing from behind and didn't feel like they could necessarily protect their guy the same way.
Well, I like that and I said this going into the game, they went 12 personnel more than people thought. I was like, they're going to go 12 personnel. It just made sense, right? They wanted to exacerbate the advantage potentially in the run game, because Texas is going to play with a lot of 2 deep safeties. And it would also force Texas to either go 40 personnel with 4 DBs on the field, or be lighter against the run with a sub package of DBs. And they went 12 personnel way more than I thought, actually, especially in that first half. And I thought that may have simplified things for Julian Sayin too, trying to use their tight ends a little bit, Max Clare and company in the run game and in the passing game. And they just found a way to get Max Clare some easier completions. And honestly, without the drops, how many drops did Ohio State have early? Like 2 or 3 drops?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, except those were think about they were easy completions for him. If not for the drop, it should have been Jeremiah Smith should have caught those. But I was a little surprised. Brian Hartline did a good job of scheming easier completions for his quarterback than Sark did. And Sark is known for that as a quarterback guy. So it's rare that, like I said, I will say that, but I think Sark ultimately, kind of got out coached in this matchup a little bit. And that's not something I thought I'd be saying after this matchup.
Yep. A couple comments in that regard. Randy Cole says, I fear we have another year of non-complimentary offense. Hard to tell Sark since Sark called a really bad game. Jay Junior Dog says, thoughts on Sark getting an offensive coordinator season early for QB1. PK and the D deserve their applause. Hats off to the defense. Matt, our producer, we did this early, but can you put the stats back up of this game as people have joined? So many people have joined us over the last hour or so since we've been kicked this show off. This is surprising if you're just coming in from the game or didn't get the full stats post game. Texas holding Ohio State to just 203 total yards compared to 336 for the Longhorns. Texas moved the ball reasonably well up and down the field, but it was the red zone that spelled trouble for Sark as a play caller today. I think that's clear. We need to see what happens as well. This is from a Ohio State fan. And Rod, Tony, I want to ask you this. Coming from an Ohio State fan, Texas looked very conservative until the fourth quarter. Did you think Texas was too conservative today? I guess in retrospect, everything was too conservative, right?
Absolutely. I think they were very vanilla. That's what we talked about at the beginning. We didn't see a lot of those shifts in motions and things that we're accustomed to seeing. And maybe that could be Sark saying he wants to protect Archer a little bit and not let the game get out of control. Whatever it is, listen, they'll go back and watch the film and figure out, okay, we have to understand our identity and then dive into that, for lack of a better word, right? And so, I would say that a lot. And what happens is that when you're playing that type of vanilla type of style of offense and you're down in the fourth quarter, you take the reins off because it's like, well, what's the worst that can happen? We got 7 minutes left and we're down 14-0. And so all of a sudden you find some light. Now, a lot of that can be a little bit of fool's gold because defensive coordinators change as the fourth quarter comes. We have a 14-point lead. We want to protect it. So we might pay a little bit more bend or not break. I know, Rod has been in those type of situations to where, we're trying to protect the lead and we're wanting to get the clock down. So we're going to play a particular shell defense and keep everything underneath. So that could be a situation as well. What I do know is this. What we saw from it starts at the top down. What we saw from Sark is not the typical Sark offense. I don't want us to throw the baby out with the bathwater. Go back to doing what it is that we do and let the chips fall where they may. We found our running game. I believe that we found our running game. This was a formidable opponent with a really good defense, and we put up almost 200 yards rushing on them. We found our running game. We need to continue that and then get back to doing what we do in the passing game and merge those things together, and we'll be just fine.
All right. Hey, Rod, we've talked a little bit about the red zone woes, but what did you think about Sark's play calling on 1st and goal with Manning running the ball 3 times with little success or no success when they hammered the run on that drive?
I liked it at first because I think it's like he went empty formation and then ended up running. I liked it at first and then, became a bit redundant. I thought, there should be more variety. So I think ultimately Sark is still struggling to figure out what works in the red zone consistently, right? I don't think he has figured out in the last 2, I guess now 3 years going on where he hasn't figured out, what's our identity? Your identity is what you do as well, if not better than everybody else. What works for you, what you can hang your hat on. I don't know if Texas has a hang your hat concept, or even like you said, Bobby, player, touchdown maker that they go, no, this is our guy in the red zone. Let's go. He's our guy. They don't really have that. So I think Sark oftentimes is searching. That's why it feels like, why did he run this random thing? Why did he do that? Why did he do that? It's like, because I think a lot of times he's just trying to see if they have anything that may work really well for them. Because I think Matthew Golden was probably kind of their best red zone guy last year.
He was as a receiver, but this one is, Daryl brings it up. Cedric Baxter was not on a pitch count after all. He was.
Correct. That's where I was going.
He did not play much in the last quarter of that game. So he wasn't on a pitch count per se. But what are your thoughts on how he looked? There was one time where I thought he had some space and he just didn't have that explosiveness. But, boy, he is a tough, hard-nosed runner with a lot of power. And he's got really good hands out of the backfield too, by the way.
Yep.
He's
yes.
I mean, there is a place for him on this team. I think that I want to see him get that pop back in his step a little bit. Tony, what'd you think?
Yeah, listen, when you're talking about figuring out, you want to know what solves the red zones on short yardage, a physical back. I would love to see CJ get the ball 2-3 times. If we're going to go for 4, give it to him 4 times and let's see what happens. I would love to see that, right? He is a powerful load to bring down. And yes, he's coming off of a knee injury, so that explosiveness, it might take some time to get back, but that power is there. And so when you need power plays, if we found what we think that we found intrinsically on the offensive line, let's give him the ball, 3 or 4 times and see what happens, right? At least from that standpoint, Rod, then you can understand now that we truly do have an identity, whether that's lead, whether that's fullback, fullback lead, or whatever that is, power counter, whatever that thing is. We have a guy that we know when this guy comes in, we're running the ball, period and point blank, and he has the power to get over that line. Like you talked about on that 3rd and 3, 2.5 yards. Well, look, if it's 4th and 1 and he's averaging 2.5 hard yards, that's a touchdown. I would love to see what that looks like, him having the ball 3 times as opposed to Arch.
Yep, I like that.
All right, we're going to get to a few more questions before we close it out here on the 2025 first season opener post-game show. I'm Bobby Burton, joined by Rod Babers and Tony Hills, lifetime Longhorns, former Longhorn players as well as NFL players. This episode of On Texas Football Postgame brought to you by our friends at Flight, the next generation of light beer. With only 95 calories, it's an easy drinking, upscale light beer designed to elevate your taste buds with just 2.6 carbs per serving. Flight is an easy-to-drink beer with a clean, crisp taste. Try Flight from Yuengling, thanks to the fine folks at Flight and our friends at Faust Distributing. Hey, guys, this one, a couple other comments that I think a positive one here. Wingo looked like he was shot out of a cannon on that reverse. This from 57 cal. Way faster than I remember him being last year. Wingo looked good, and then he caught that deep in the 4th quarter that kind of ignited that game, the touchdown scoring drive for Texas as well. They need to find him more frequently would be my suggestion. Mm-hmm. Is that fair, Rod and Tony? They need to get him the ball in his hands a little bit more.
Yeah, absolutely, and they're going to have to find ways to do it that are, that are a little bit out of the box, so to speak. Because I'm telling you right now, everybody knows who the guy is at Texas when it comes to the passing game, and so the same way that Texas defense bracketed Jeremiah Smith is going to be the same way that they bracket Ryan Wingo. You would be a fool to leave Ryan Wingo one-on-one with any of your secondary. So he's going to have safeties over the top. He's going to have sticky coverage on him as much as possible. He's going to have linebackers in the drop zone. That's going to force other players to step up. And then eventually what happens is as the coverage now has to balance up because the other guys are making plays, that's when you start seeing Wingo get loose. You're going to have to see some reverses. I would love to see more wide receiver screens. I talked to you guys about the athleticism of these tackles. And when you saw the wide receiver screen that they threw to him, it hit for 7 yards. What did you see? You saw Brandon Baker up on the safety. Those are the type of things that we're talking about. And I can only imagine Sark will see that and say, you know what, check it. Let's put a lot of that into our repertoire because we have the guys and athleticism to get there, which then spreads the defense out, right? And so now with Sark's ingenuity, he'll mess around and have, some sort of play action, receiver screen deep pass off of something like that, right? Mm-hmm. So it allows him to continue to elevate and get more guys involved in different ways. But yeah, Wingo is a dog, ain't no doubt about it. And he has the respect and he has the league on notice because of the way that they were playing him. Even in this game, they were not going to let Ryan, we gonna beat you. The one deep pass that he beat his guy. The other guy came off of his man underneath, right, to go play double coverage on this guy because they know how dangerous he is. So there you have it.
Yep.
All right, I got a couple more questions. This one from A. Mars. Please ban all those who think Sark needs an OC. That's not a question we've really thought of. Rod, I'm gonna let you take that one. What are your thoughts?
He has an OC. He does. Kyle Flood is the offensive coordinator, right? He does have an OC. In terms of him being a play caller, though, A. Mars, I know there are some Longhorn fans who have had this discussion. And listen, it's nothing wrong with having the discussion. I don't think it'll ever happen. I think that's part of the added value of getting Sark. The continuity is that he's the head coach and also the play caller. But I will say this, that you start looking at it's a tougher job, period. It's tough. If you go look at the history of coaches who've won national titles, who've also called plays, it will let you know that it's a lower success rate for those coaches because it's just a harder job to do. All right. So I think Sark is in that rare group of guys who ultimately can do it. There's no doubt he's not done evolving as a coach yet. We just saw another example of it. He's not yet done evolving in terms of being a championship level coach. I think he's going to get there. But now we're looking at his record versus elite coaches, right? Ryan Days, Kalen DeBoers, Kirby Smarts. So he's there's still a step he's got to take because obviously against those caliber coaches, Sark has not been able to meet the mark just yet. And ain't nothing wrong with that, by the way. He's taken huge strides in the last 4 years. There's some, including myself, who were like, I wasn't sure if Sark was going to get to this point. So he has exceeded my expectations, and I am a believer that he can get there. But let's be real about this situation. He ain't there yet.
Yeah, that's right. Hey, Tony and Rod, Jerry Hamilton, Rod said something. He goes, Sark's 1-1 against Nick Saban, but he's not in the game anymore. So he doesn't. So Sark doesn't get credit for being 1-1 against him. And there's some truth in that, right? Yeah. The guy that won 7 national championships, you're 1-1 against, but those other guys got to beat those guys too. It's one of those things. Hey, Emmanuel Villafranco, thank you for your super chat. We did not get a question with that. Also, Isaiah Rangel asked, where are we ranked after this? I think Texas is going to be squarely in the top 10. Are they a top 5 team? I'm not watching any of the games right now, so let's see how those games turn out today. If they're staying in the top 5. But I think that was a big time game that we just watched in Columbus here. All right, one more question here, and then a comment before we let you guys go today. Osna roll. I don't even know how to say that. Osna roll. Texas needs a refrigerator Perry type player for those goal line plays. They've used Tavondre Sweat and Byron Murphy in those previously. But I would say I want to add this, Rod, something they didn't do in this game much. I didn't see much 21 personnel.
No pony. What the hell, man?
Yeah, I mean, and so did you take advantage of having both Cedric Baxter and Trey Wisner back at a full level? I don't know about that. All right, here's another one from Equinshadox. Thanks, OTF, for the best team coverage in the biz. Hopefully the offense and especially Arch will take this first game personally and attack the rest of the schedule twice as hard. Hook them. Thank you, first of all, for the kind words. We appreciate it very, very much. We all work very hard here. Tony is filling in today at a last minute's notice. So thank you very much, Tony, as well, as part of the team. But I would say this. Texas was in the fourth quarter with under 2 minutes remaining, had the ball to go tie the game against the defending national champion. While there are some, and this is my final soliloquy for this game. While there are some things that need to be improved, whether it's Arch, whether it's red zone play calling, there's also the fact that they played a good ball game. It wasn't a perfect game by any stretch, but they didn't go in there and get blown out. They didn't look outmatched physically. I think this team is going to be really, really good in October and November. I'm just telling you guys. I think it's heading in that direction once Arch does get his feet under him. Once Sark does kind of figure out what Arch does well. And also, I mean, I think this defense is legit. So I'll leave you guys with final thoughts. Tony, you go first, and then Rod, the eloquent man that you are, can finish it up. What do you got, Tony?
Rod's the closer for sure. That man has it. Listen, I'm glad I get to go first. Now I have to follow you up, but I'll say this. I want to go back to the whole, Sark letting go of the play calling thing. If Sark letting go of play calling would be similar to Jerry Jones letting go of being a general manager. You let me know how that works out for you, right? That's the first thing. But that's what I'm talking about, man. We can't throw the baby out with the bathwater. This is the same Sark that beat, Alabama. This is the same Sark that went to Michigan and beat Michigan. This is the same Sark that's won Big 12 championships, been in the SEC championship twice, been in the college semifinals in the playoffs. This is the same Sark. So to Rod's point, there are a lot of leaps and bounds that Sark has made, and he will continue to make. Right? Here's one of my takeaways, and one of the most positive things that I look at out of this whole thing. When we first started this thing back in off-season OTAs and training camps, everybody's biggest question mark was the offensive line. I'm here to tell you that they are not a question mark. They are real. They are here. And these guys are moving people and will continue to move people off the ball. And I told you guys earlier that we have gotten bigger and stronger inside. And as we continue to gain understanding of how we want to move, it looks like we're going to be a power counter gap scheme team. That will bring more opportunities and easier passes to Arch into the receivers, because you're going to have to start putting people in the box. And if you start seeing single high safety guys light up the band, because our receivers will be able to win in those type of situations. So I look forward to seeing what comes out of this. I can tell you this much. With these next 3 weeks, if any of those teams thought that they weren't going to get Texas all and they were going to be looking for this SEC play opener, I can promise you that's not happening. you have Texas's full attention, and I won't be surprised if we go back to the golden ages where we start seeing 50-plus points put on teams and people eating sunflower seeds at halftime. I'm looking forward to the next 3 weeks.
What do you got, Rod?
That's good.
Close us out.
No, Teals, that was awesome. I'll jump to the defense side about, one of the question marks was, could that defensive line hold up, stop the running game for Ohio State? Well, they certainly did that. I think Ohio State had 2.3 yards per rush or something like that. The only thing the defense didn't do that I would have wanted more was to get more havoc plays, just more splash plays on defense. But overall, holding a team, at home to 14 on the road for you for 14 points. I thought the defense did their job. Offense didn't hold up their end of the bargain, but it wasn't the entire offense, because I'm with T. Hills. I like the running game for the Texas offense. I feel like that may be the identity. It's weird how oftentimes our expectations, because we have these projections and our own kind of prognostications for how we believe the team is going to be. And remember, last year people were very disappointed early on. I remember this in the team, because offensively they expected them to be blowing teams out. And I remember telling people, I said, listen, the identity of the team is they're a defensive team. You're just upset because you thought it was going to be something else. And because it didn't look like you thought it was going to look, now you're a little bit upset. But if you actually accept the team for what it is, then you'll appreciate it more. And I think Longhorn fans started to figure out, now we're a defensive team. Defense, that's what leads the way for us. That's our identity. We don't know what the identity is going to be, but I think a lot of people thought, including myself, that it might be Arch Manning. And maybe it ain't. Yeah. Maybe Arch ain't the identity of this team. Maybe he's just a great, a nice piece of it. But maybe the identity, getting back to Heels, maybe your running game, which traveled on the road, by the way, against Ohio State, and you just got 160-something yards rushing. And by the way, most of that was done in the second half, because the first half you weren't running the ball very well. So that was an adjustment by the coaches on the fly, which I actually liked. And that the defense actually also traveled for you. And, and maybe Arch is a work in progress. So just keep in mind that, this team can still be really good. It's just not going to look how you thought it would, how I thought it would look. And that's okay. just to enjoy the journey and enjoy the ride, and still they end up being a good team. I think they're going to be a good team. I don't think this is, the end all be all. I don't think this is doomsday, Longhorn fans. It's just, I think we need to adjust our expectations and adjust the reality of what this team is going to be, at least for the foreseeable future. And that's okay. Nothing wrong with that.
This defense will take you places.
Exactly. And the run game might too.
Yep. All right. Look, Texas 0-1 to start the season, lost 14-7 to the Buckeyes of Ohio State in Columbus. The Longhorns now will play San Jose State next weekend. We'll be there, obviously, as well. Guys, thank you to our sponsors, Flight from Yingling, as well as all of our game day sponsors, including Tito's, homemade, handmade craft vodka, as well as South Point Dodge, and our friends over at Vaughn Lane. Thank you all so much for joining us. Thanks for all the super chats. And thank you especially to our producer, Matt Hutchison, as well as CJ Vogel, who joined us there from Inside the Shoe. For Rod Babers and Tony Hills, I'm Bobby Burton. This has been the year's first post-game show. College football is back. Let's get on the winning column next week. Hook 'em.
Hook 'em.
Baby.